Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. Well, yesterday I made a 2-minute speech with regards to the trip to Israel that I took under AIJAC and some of the disturbing things that we learnt when visiting Ramallah and meeting with the Palestinian Prime Minister. And I did begin to touch on some absolutely appalling behaviour that has apparently been endorsed by the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the ABC. In a recently deleted Twitter account, Fouad Abu Ghosh, who has worked as a news producer for the ABC since 2004, and in fact, even more appallingly, won a Walkley Award in 2016 on his reporting from Syria. But we know what the status of the Walkley Awards are in this current day and age. But he has now deleted his Twitter account, but it is important to note, prior to him deleting this account, just a week or so ago, Abu Ghosh's page read an official title in his Twitter account: Middle East producer for Australian Broadcasting Corporation, opinions are mine and ABC's. So I do think the ABC potentially has some questions to answer, because in October last year, Abu Ghosh warned that there is a great Zionist project to dominate and control all Arabs in the region. That sounds very anti-Israel to me. Is that the view of the ABC? But it gets worse. Surprisingly, it gets worse. Just in April this year, there were further posts in response to a screenshot of an Israeli policeman detaining an unidentified civilian. Now, for those of us, and I was lucky enough to be there just last week, for those of us that have actually experienced Israel, who understand where the borders are and what is actually occurring within the different areas, particularly around Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and around the different parts, the Temple Mount, all of the old city of Jerusalem and the very, very holy lands, that what is portrayed in the media is not necessarily what is actually going on. But, you know, as we know, never let the facts get in the way of a good story. But, particularly in the ABC, because in response to that photo, Abu Ghosh tweeted, and you know, this is what he tweeted, and apparently is the view of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. This is how the Nazis treated the Jews. Maybe it is time for ... Shameful. I mean, that to me is up there with one of the most appalling things I think you could possibly say. But this is the view of the Israeli correspondent in the Middle East, who on his Twitter account, until recently deleted, determined that these were not only his views but the views of the ABC. So David Anderson, Ida Buttrose and the rest of the ABC deserve to give every Australian who pays for this organisation an explanation, and let not only Jewish Australians, not only our friends in Israel, let them know if that are their views, but all Australians who fund them. Because it seems to me they are going out of their way to ensure they alienate huge sections of the community and contribute to the misinformation that is consistently being peddled. And look, I will touch on another issue very, very briefly, and I'm sure I will come back to this, because one of the things that we heard whilst in meetings in Israel is this new piece of propaganda that somehow Israel is a state of apartheid. And this emanates from an anti-racism conference in Durban, which was deliberately put there in coordination with a group of Arab states and the Palestinian Liberation Army. I mean, the PLO, Arab states put together an anti-racism conference in Durban. And somehow they compare Israel, which is the most inclusive state for those that have ever been there, but one of the people that we met with, who was absolutely amazing, is an Arab citizen of Israel. He's been a journalist there for over 38 years. And he actually said that he was incredibly grateful to live in Israel. And I would have thought if you were an Arab, Israeli, and this was really a state of apartheid, that's probably not where you'd want to be. But as I said, I'm going to come back to this because Amnesty International has used a definition of apartheid that has never been signed by a Western nation, was actually only developed by the USSR, to also claim that Israel is an apartheid state. Amnesty is discredited, it is disgraceful, and the ABC owes an explanation.